Hello and welcome to Lang Talent, the podcast by MultiLingual Media, where we highlight the human side of the language industry and the future of work. My name is Eddie Arrieta, I'm the CEO here, and today we are joined by Stefani Vorhees. She's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Propio. We're going to be talking about what people's first HR looks like in practice and why the language industry depends on more than just technology and strategy to thrive. We'll explore how HR can empower growth, engagement, and purpose while shaping careers that make a difference. Stefani, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is great. And you are in Kansas City. I was just mentioning I studied in Missouri. So how's Kansas these days?
It is nice and summer weather, and everybody just wants to talk about Taylor and Travis and their big news. So the city is here for it.
Fantastic. And of course, we're here also to talk about human resources, about the future of work. And I would love to get your perspective and get to understand more about what your experience at Propio has been like. And you've said that HR isn't about rules or paperwork, it's about people. How has that perspective shaped your work at Propio and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, thank you. So at Propio, I really try to approach HR with the mindset that our role is here to elevate our people. We're not just here to manage the process. And so by making people first, I think we've been able to shape HR as a true business partner within the organization. We are the business partner that's driving culture and engagement, performance, rather than just simply here to enforce rules. And I really think this has influenced the way we've approached a lot of things. Proprio has grown through acquisition, I'm sure as all of us know. And, we use this mindset to approach it as we don't welcome people day one with just a bunch of paperwork. Saying, we want to get to know you. We want to know how your business works. Instead of overwhelming them on this, here's a new handbook, here's a stack of paperwork to fill out. That's not what we're doing. And we've also been really able to, help with, using that mindset is helping with, initiatives around employee experience, around performance to help drive the business forward. And by doing that, I think that has been what has enabled the HR being a strategic function here at Proprio. And, it allows our employees to feel valued and supported, and it's driving the company's success at the end of the day.
And of course, Propio has been making some acquisitions. It's a huge company. And, great people, I think, look very similar across many different companies. When you look at the top performers, they would always have similar traits. From your experience, what are some of the qualities that you think make someone a great fit for the language industry, but for someone at Propio and for someone to thrive in our industry?
Yeah, I think no matter what, no matter what industry it is, somebody has to have a passion around it. They have to have a why to, be on that, high growth trajectory. And so why people are in the language services is usually personal to them. But then if I take away the why, we just assume everybody here, has that why. I really think that language services has set this crossroads of culture and communication for many years. And now we've added a third crossroad of technology. So again, assuming the passion is there, I think folks that have adaptability, curiosity, resilience are really going to be the ones that are most successful, especially here at Proprio. Language services is ever changing, evolving industry. And I tell every single person I've interviewed at Proprio, you can ask any of them, is if you don't like change, this isn't the place for you. Because, especially Proprio, we're on this rocket ship to lead the industry. And, in order to do that, we as a business have to evolve. And, people in the industry have to evolve and, be resilient to those changes as they come to us.
And that evolution, of course, allows Propio to get into places where others don't go. And you are in the middle of it, helping talent at Propio also navigate this, because even if you have the inclination to be adaptive to all these changes, you need some help. Could you tell us a little bit about the support that you give your team members, the coaching that happens within Propio, especially to carry forward a culture of engagement and inclusion?
Yeah. So we can kind of separate that a little bit into two buckets, but, we can focus on how do we drive that engagement culture. I think we had to make the conscious decision. We can all get bogged down in our little to-do list that we check off every day. And, that could take up all of our day if we wanted it to. but we really made the conscious decision that we wanted to drive culture. We wanted to, really focus on engagement. And I kind of compare it to, if you want to lose 10 pounds or 5 pounds or however many, you can't just say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds and it just happens. You have to make the conscious decision to eat better, work out, whatever it is for you. And so for us, we made that conscious decision to invest in engagement and invest in our culture and invest in our people. We even took it a step further and hired a dedicated engagement specialist. So I've got somebody within my team that their sole role is engagement. And so they are looking at it from every aspect that we can. And I remind my entire team every day, what is the experience? How's an employee interacting with this? And so with our leaders, I've always felt if you make it easy, they will do it. And so how can we make engagement easy for our leaders? How can we provide them with resources to engage their teams? How can we, shape our engagement initiatives to fit their lives? And so by Proprio taking this time to make engagement easy, the leaders participate at a higher rate. And then, as we've said, Proprio has grown through acquisition pretty heavily, and we've had to shift to having a lot more of a remote culture, a lot bigger global footprint. And we've had to, shift the mindset from we weren't a small Kansas City based company anymore. We are now a leader in this industry and we've got employees all over the world. How do we engage them? How do we make them feel that way? And so again, my team and, our executive team really took the time to provide them a playbook. Here's how you do it. Here's things that you do. Have you thought about this? And when they're not thinking about it, we're thinking about it for them. And, trying to make those employees always feel special, whether they're here in our office or around the world.
And Stephanie, if you can allow me to go rogue here a little bit, a big focus of our listeners is also to consider companies like Propio, like the place where they like to work. And they're always curious to understand what are the roles that are available, what functions are growing. And sometimes those functions are not growing right now and the roles are not available right now, but they might be available in the future. Is there something you can tell us about the functions and the roles that might become available or that are available right now at Propio that our listeners can say, hey, that might be a global company that I want to be part of?
Propio's middle name is growth. It has been since the day I walked in. And so we really are growing across the organization. So the way that our recruiting has, a lot of times gone is, when one function's growing, the other ones aren't right now. But, our client teams are booming at the moment. Our tech teams are just, growing like gangbusters. So I really feel like, tech and, client facing roles, the opportunity to, impact those clients are where Proprio's biggest growth is today. On the corporate side of things, obviously our interpreter and translator pools are always growing, and that team is always having their hands full. But really on the corporate side, I think our CS and our technology groups are the ones that are seeing the largest growth right now.
That is great to hear, and of course, HR is so similar to me in a specific sense that it's very similar to the language industry. HR is one of those functions that, when it's not done right, you can really feel the pain, and when it's done right, you almost don't see it. It's very similar to the language industry. I think the companies that are going to grow the fastest and in the best pace in our industry are those that are taking HR seriously. Where do you see HR's role heading in the next 5 to 10 years, especially in our industry, which is at the intersection of people and technology?
Yeah, absolutely. HR has been in this industry shift for, really since COVID. Once COVID happened, it became, oh my gosh, nobody knew what to do. How can we, help each other? And so we started seeing that shift during COVID, and I think you'll see it even more over the next 5+ years, is moving away from being seen as this compliance or transactional function. I think we are starting to be seen, and it'll become more prevalent, that we are going to be this strategic enabler of growth. We are going to help organizations more with workforce design and how do these workplaces thrive in a highly tech driven global marketplace. And I think the biggest question for all the workforce right now is around AI. That's every conversation I think I have right now is around AI. But, at Proprio, we truly believe that AI makes people better. It's not better than people. And so when we kind of, made that mindset of AI is here, and it is going to help enable our people, my mind instantly went to how can HR help shift this workplace to enable our employees to understand it, utilize it, and how can we help drive optimization? For the last probably 3 to 5 years, I really started to see my role within businesses and HR's role within businesses being more about human capital versus human resources. And I think that will become a more utilized term in the industry as we're shifting, is because we are able to help optimize human capital, which is a business's biggest asset. And we are the ones that can help lead that change.
And I think that that change is happening so rapidly that for those that are not careful, it might, for certain companies, destroyed even the fabric of how they operate. And you're mentioning as well that there is a lot of change that is happening. I presume that in your own function, HR, there is also a lot of change, but there are also a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of misconceptions about what you actually do. If there is one misconception that you could shift, or a misconception that people have about HR, what would that misconception be?
Can I pick three?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think the top three that I always hear, and it's things that I've been battling my entire career, are HR is the compliance admin, transactional function. HR is the bad guy, or HR is the party planner. And those are not true. We are truly so much more than that. I mean, every decision a business makes has a human impact. Whether we think it in the moment or not, it does. And when you have the right HR partnership with you, it can really help unlock the business's success. And I always say, like, yes, do we have compliance as part of our job description? Absolutely. Do we have party planning? Yes-ish. And I can assure you that no HR person enjoys sitting in a room when we have to let somebody go. That's not why we're here. That's not what drives us as individuals. And so I really feel like strong HR leaders show up every single day to enable the business success, again, through its human capital. And so if anybody's like, oh, you're in HR, that's rough. Like, well, it's actually a lot of fun if you're doing it right. And so luckily at Proprio, our leadership team has supported us doing it right. And we've been able to do it the right way.
Stephanie, and you've mentioned a few of these of the values that you look for, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but could you tell us a little bit about the core values of Propio so that those that are listening could get a sense of what are some of the things that the Propio team strives for, that you look for when you are looking to hire someone, those that you work for while you are at the company. These are the things that you push for every day to make sure that your culture grows, and also that you give your team members the right environment to thrive.
Yeah. So I was just looking over here. I've got our wheel of values. So right around the time I joined, we actually launched 10 values, which at first seemed like a lot. And then I just realized how much Proprio is doing. And the fact that we are living all 10 of these things, I'm okay with the 10. At first, I wasn't sure, but I am okay with the 10. And we've got them up in our states. We provide them to all of our new team members. We're talking about them through all of our engagement initiatives. It's, how does our engagement actually tie back to one of these? And, a couple of my favorite values here at Proprio, one of them is hands-on. And I really like this one because we believe even on an executive level, you need to be hands-on in the business. And so Proprio is not an environment where we've got, managers managing managers manages. That's not who we are. And so we really want to be hands-on in the business. And we feel like as long as everybody has a pulse on the industry, has a pulse on what Proprio is doing, we're all able to come up with a better idea. Idea one is usually not the game winner. It's usually the iteration of idea one. And so I really love hands-on. And then a lot of the values that I mentioned earlier around what makes a successful person in the industry are Proprio, around resilience and adaptability. So I really feel like Proprio invested the time to align our 10 core values to what somebody in this industry is going to be successful in.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing those. And I'm sure we can find a link to the Wheel of Values so that we can put it in the description of our podcast. And of course, for those that are listening, you might know that we do a Lang Talent event, a live Lang Talent event a few times a year. And Stephanie is one of our invited guests for our future panels on the future of growth. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, we're going to have the pleasure to have Stephanie with us again in the future, if that's okay, Stephanie, of course. I assume it is. Great. And just to finish the conversation before we close up, you talked a little bit about the why. And that purpose and purpose-driven organizations are the ones that we are really attracted to, and that's why we want to talk to you and want to talk to to the Propio team for your specific path, Stephanie. What has driven your success as a professional, and what is your why, if I might ask?
Yeah, my why is the easiest thing. It's my husband and my son. I've always valued a career. I always wanted to be a working mom, and that's exactly what I've been able to do. I didn't necessarily fall into HR like most people did. I actually actively worked towards this, and I really saw how important people were to businesses. And I, at the time, 15 years ago, I thought, wow, this is such an under recognized power that a business could unlock. And when I saw businesses that were doing it, they were the most successful ones. And I said, I want to enable that within businesses. And so I really, leaned in and been fortunate to work in very high growth, fast paced, organizations that I've been able to make a lot of change and a lot of growth within these businesses. And, seeing people that, I hired as interns that are, now into senior leadership roles, that's so exciting for me because I knew that, the things that we put in place within the business is what got them there today.
No, thank you, Stephanie. And of course, we look forward to the comments from our audience, to the comments from the Propio team on this interview. Stephanie, once again, you're welcome to our live event that is going to happen in a month or a couple of months. And of course, are there any final thoughts that you might have today before we go?
No, I think we're all good. We've covered it.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in into Lang Talent. A huge thank you to Stefani Vorhees, Chief Human Resources Officer at Propio. And thank you, everyone, for sharing, those that are sharing our episodes. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to Lang Talent on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Lang Talent is part of MultiLingual Media's mission to highlight careers, talent, and the future of work in the language industry. Once again, my name is Eddie Arrieta, CEO here at MultiLingual Media. Until next time, goodbye.